Jim and Jim, welcome to Perspectives. Thank you for joining us with what is our second segment for Perspectives. So you've both spoken about leadership and alluded to culture in some form or fashion. Jim, how important are those two things, culture and leadership, in terms of the focus on the customer and the obsession with the customer?
Well, look, I think leadership, everything we do, every metric we track, whether it's quality of service, whether it's safety, whether it's efficiency, every metric that we track, the good or the bad can be traced back to leadership. And it's not coincidence that when you see good metrics, regardless of the metric, 99 times out of 100 you can look and see a really good leader when you have really good metrics, and you can see a less than strong leader when you have poor metrics. So we're focused on how do we develop through this culture, how do we make a waste management a great place to work that not only we enjoy coming to each day, but we also have opportunity to move within the organization. How do I move up within the organization? And it's our responsibility to identify those folks that are future leaders and give them the training, give them the tools to ultimately become those leaders of the future.
So Jim T., if there were a recipe for success when it comes to focus on the customer, say we were to ask somebody, waste management, and their response would be absolutely focused on the customer. What is the recipe for success in your mind?
Tony, I think it's similar to the way Jim and I talk about it some in the company. It's a balance. It's a balance in our personal lives. It's a balance in our business lives. We both said that faith and family and career are ordered in that way. And as I do well with my number one, the next two improve. And in my mind, our company issues are very similar in that safety, to me, is number one. It's first of all the right thing to do in communities. As we drive around and service customers with 17,000 trucks on the road most days of the week, the opportunity for failure and the impact of failure is dramatic. So without that happening correctly and without that leadership principles that Jim spoke about, without the leadership to drive a safe culture, then service to a customer or efficiency they're only negatively affected when we don't perform correctly from a safe perspective. No customer wants risky behaviors on their parking lot or in front of their place of business. And by the way, when something happens, a risky behavior turns into an accident, an incident of some kind, tell me how that helps efficiency or service to a customer when a truck is off the route for an extended period of time, or that route is just shut down while we deal with a very difficult situation. It only negatively affects service to other customers when that route or when people are impacted. So it's absolutely the number one priority, but it connects so directly with efficiency and service to customers.
So Jim and Jim, I know you both get calls, emails from customers. I know other members of the SLT do as well. And I'm not looking for details as to what customers are saying or complaining about or complimenting us about, but I am really interested in your perspective and any observations on those calls and what customers are saying.
To be perfectly honest, I do get a lot of calls from customers, and more of them are bad than good, but I have to recognize that if I get 2 a week, and we have 22 million service locations, that I'm getting a very, very, very small percentage of the overall. The reason, actually, in a weird way, I like getting those calls is because it helps me see where we're kind of missing a little bit. It's not because I want to point the finger at somebody. It's because it helps me see where we're missing. Now, some of these calls are from a customer who says, you emptied my can and there were some branches in the bottom and the branches didn't come out, and so you need to send a truck back. Some of them are where we had a billing issue for 6 consecutive months. But I do try to call each of these customers back. And almost without exception, we turn it into a good thing. They say, gosh, I'm surprised to hear from you, or thank you for resolving my issue. And ultimately, though, you'd like to get to a point where it's not Jim Fish or Jim Trevathan calling them back, but that we're empowered at the customer experience level, and we have linkage between customer experience and operations to be able to solve that customer's issues and make them feel just as good, if not better, than getting a call back from me. They shouldn't ultimately have to come to Jim Fish or Jim Trevathan.
So let's wrap this up with a sort of a rapid round word association. And I'm going to start with the first one for you, Jim. When I say customer-centric, you say?
I say that customer-centric happens when we have that linkage between customer experience and operations.
Jim, when I say best in class, you say?
Our aspiration. I think that no business entity or personal matter succeeds without having that long-term goal, our aspiration to be best in class. I personally think we are best in class within our industry. Yet there's so much opportunity, as we've talked about in the past, that aspiration is that initial thought, because it always connects with continuous improvement. And I'm always trying to find a way to get better and better, regardless of how you measure me.
When I say our most important tool when it comes to the focus on the customer, you say?
There's no question that our most important tool is our people. And some folks don't look at their people as being their most important asset, and those that don't, I think, are really missing the boat. Our most important tool with respect to our customer is our people, and a lot of it comes back to how we treat our people at all levels. How do we as leaders treat our people? If they're treated well, then ultimately they treat our customers well.
Sure. So when I say we've solved for this, you say?
You know, that's a harder one, Tony, because again, I go back to that continuous improvement. I'm not sure there is a metric or a time or a place where we've solved for whether it's customer centricity or whether it's developing the right leadership in our people. To me, it's more about that effort and that fact that we have a never-ending journey to get to that aspiration of not just best in class within our industry, but recognized with the Jeff Bezos of the world and the Amazons and others, that is our primary focus. And then, you know, without a doubt, we've had shareholder success. Anybody who looks recently, you'll see the success that in our share price. Our investors have to be happy these days. At the same time, they're like us. It's a never-ending desire for what's next. How next do we move forward? And it connects exactly with what Jim just said about people. You know, we talk about our assets, and they're absolutely the finest in the industry. They're in the right locations, with the right environmental processes in place, with the right leadership teams in place. But it's the people at the front lines and all the way through our organization that make that asset turn into shareholder value, and make our business lives fun, to be honest. I think about, we just earlier this year went on Circle of Excellence trip and saw people, my heavens, I think of Val Ruoff, the district manager, that embodies leadership at that district level, both from a customer standpoint, but he starts with safety and then ends with efficiency, and all three connect very directly. You know, I think about Susie Vega, sales rep, you know, in South Florida, that how many times she's been a Circle of Excellence winner. It's like year in and year out, and then yet have a newcomer, Jerome out of, I think he's out of Wisconsin, that came and sought both of us out that first night. That people are what matter within a company, but also within our industry, as we seek that aspiration of best in class.
Did Jerome try and take you on in basketball, the two of you?
Not willing.
No, it's not Jerome. It's not Jerome.
If he had, we would have declined.
Let me end with the last one for you, Jim. If there's one thing that all of us could do to improve our focus on the customer, what would it be?
I think it's solving the customer issue yourself, taking responsibility for solving that customer issue, and not trying to hand it off to the next person. So that's why I like to call the customer back. Now, granted, I can't solve it necessarily, and when I do place a call, it usually happens. But I think you know, one of the things you see at Amazon is when you call back with a problem that person solves the problem for you. They don't hand you off. And so the linkage between customer experience and operations is critically important, but making sure that we solve the customer's issue, that we are empowered to solve the customer's issue. I think when we're able to say that confidently that that's what we do, boy, I think you'll see that quality of service metric that Jim talked about really, everybody will be at Gulf Coast's level.
Jim Trevathan, Jim Fish, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon to talk about something so important. Thank you.